Well, today we're going to be talking about this stuff, peanuts, right? And peanut allergies. As I've said in the past, we're going to talk also about how researchers, media, I think, is doing this more than researchers, but media is part of the symptom of the problem here, and how they are predicting the past. More on the data show. Hi, I'm Chris Greco. I'm the moderator on the data show. And today what I want to talk to you about is this massive study that has been just hit over and over and over again by media about how 60,000 children were prevented from having peanut allergies as a result of this, as a result of guidelines that were set down 10 years ago. The result of a study 10 years ago. And I think this is important to differentiate because the study itself is kind of interesting. The study that says that 60,000 kids were, and I'm still trying to figure out where 60,000 comes from. And maybe somebody can tell me, maybe somebody in a study can tell me, maybe they can just tell me how this has come up. Because 60,000 kids were not, over 60,000 were not tested on this thing. I mean, it was a sampling made from a longitudinal study. Now, a longitudinal study is really important. I think let's just talk about this just for a second. How good is longitudinal? So, what is longitudinal? What does it mean, right? When people talk about longitudinal studies, does it really mean anything? Is it important to have? Is it important to do? Well, longitude, the Earth longitude, when we talk about the long side of latitude is this way, right? The lines go east-west, and the longitude lines go north-south. Longitude has to do with time. It always has to do with time. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize longitude really wasn't used on the sea. It was used on land, but it wasn't used on the sea until almost the 1700s because you didn't have a timepiece to be able to go across the salt water. It wouldn't work. So they finally developed this timepiece, and it wasn't, again, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, he did so with latitude only. He did not have the ability to do longitude. So that's kind of interesting how that limitation is there. But longitudinal means time-based, right? Time-based study, which is actually a really good study. There's a really, really, really good heart disease study, and I think it's the Framingham study. I think the Framingham study, and the Framingham study is really, really important. Framingham study. So let me put that down just to make sure you know that. Framingham, right? So what they did was the Framingham study was really pretty cool because what they did was they took the same people, and they've done this for decades on the same people, and found out eating habits, exercise habits, those types of things, and they were able to take it over a period of decades on the same people. This is really important. On the same people and their descendants, and figure out heart disease from that specific cohort study. So it's really cool. I mean, it's just an amazing thing that they can do. Now, getting back to where we were, right? So getting back to the actual study here. So what I did was I went to the internet, which I always do. And I was looking up, I thought, okay, I'm going to just look up peanut allergy study saving 60,000 kids, right? So this is what came up. Some 60,000 kids have avoided peanut allergies due to landmark 2000 advice study finds. New study shows 60,000 kids have been spared peanut allergies. Peanut allergies dropped significantly in the last 10 years. Okay, so that's not bad. That's not a bad one. Peanut allergies dropped significantly in the past 2 years. That actually is general enough to be okay, say. But this 60,000 thing, feeding babies peanuts early helped 60,000 kids avoid allergies. I'm sorry, but that's, it's like saying, and they constantly do this, saying, 3 million people were saved as a result of COVID shots. You can say what you want to say, and you can hypothesize what you want to hypothesize, and you can, do all the hypotheticals you want. But there's no evidence to prove that 60,000 kids were saved. Now, if that's an extrapolation, another word we got to figure out. So if that's an extrapolation, like they're saying, oh, well, there's so many, it's a percentage, and this extrapolated means that it's going to be 60,000 kids. If you want to extrapolate that, if you want to hypothesize, if you want to hypothetical, I mean, they do it all the time in legal stuff and crime areas and everything else. Hypothetically, but the bottom line is were 60,000 kids actually avoided? We don't know. You have no idea if 60,000 children were saved peanut allergies as a result of the 2015 or 2017 guidelines. Now, here's what you can do. So I went to CDC, and it says, this is data from the CDC, or from CDC, but National Center for Health Statistics, right? And it shows the percentage of children who had eczema by age were 12.1%, seasonal allergy, 5.8% of children had a food allergy, 5.8%. Now this was in 2021, okay? So 2021. Now, the study that we're talking about, and we'll go into that study in a second, takes it to 2020. So the study, and this is very important, at least from my reading of the study, and I'll show you the study, and you can make your own decision as to what you want to make of it, is that the study actually took, and it's really a good video if you want to see the video, but it showed, the video abstract is really good, and you need to see the video. In fact, if I can do it, I'll try to show it to you here, and make sure that we can make that work, because I think it's important to understand how this goes. So the children with allergic conditions may have increased healthcare use and decreased quality of life. Food allergies can be life-threatening, and all these things talk about National Institute of Health. Now, so go back to, we're going to go to AP. And AP, this is the AP story on advice to feed babies and early often helped thousands of kids avoid allergies. Okay, AP, of all the media outlets, AP, the Associated Press, to me, they try to get it right. They try to make it more journalistic than spectacular. And that's why I like them. That's why I go to them. I'm not endorsing them in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying that these AP is a pretty good area. But it says, a decade after the landmark study proved that feeding peanut products could prevent development of life-threatening allergies. Could prevent. New research finds a change had a big difference in the real world. So they go to Dr. David Hill, who is a researcher and author of a study, one of many authors. Okay, he's one of 6 or 7. I'll show you that in the Medical Journal of Pediatrics, which will show. Analyzed electronic health records from dozens of pediatric practices to track diagnoses of food allergies in young children before, during, and after the guidelines were issued, which is good. Longitudinal study, that's really, really good. And I think the study is a good study. And I'm going to show you the study here in a second. But I mean, it's a good study. But why does the media have to pick up on this stuff and say, hey, we saved 60,000 children? You don't know that. You don't know that any more than the man in the moon does. I could come out and say stuff, based on some study somewhere, but that's not. It's called I call it predicting the past. You're trying to figure out, oh yeah, yes, look at all we've done, to be able to save lives. That's predicting the past, but that's not necessarily true. And the reason is because we have things called confounding factors. And I could talk about confounding factors, and I talk about all these things in past shows. Confounding factors. You can't say, well, you can. You can say whatever you want. You can't prove 60,000 kids were saved. because there are confounding factors that are shoved into the situation. Population change, age change, disease changes. Remember, 2020 was big in COVID. So did COVID have an issue with that? Also, and these are the limitations. The thing I love about the pediatric study, which I'm going to show you here in a second, has to do with, what we're talking about from the standpoint of transparency, right? Encouraging trends in pain allergy prevention, real world impact of prevention guidelines. This is the study they're talking about. And this is from American Academy of Pediatrics. So, it talks about the whole thing, talks about food allergens, whatever else. Nowhere in here, nowhere is there mention of 60,000 kids. Nowhere. I don't see it. The authors report a 27.2% reduction in the cumulative incidence of peanut allergy among children in the post-initial guidelines cohort. That's the study cohort. It's not all the children in the United States. It's not all the children in the United States. It's a cohort from the electronic medical records from these practices. Okay, so in other words, the sampling is not a random sampling, and they'll sit there and they'll tell you till time, it's a random sampling. It's not a random sampling. It's from practices that are a practicing member of this electronic health record. So therefore, it's not all pediatric practices. It's not all of them. So that's an issue, because what that means is random sampling means every object has an equal chance of being picked. That's what random sampling means, folks. And I think this is, when you say random, right, it means, and this is important, every object, every event, every person, every whatever, has an equal chance of being selected. That's what random means. So this is not a random study. And most clinical trials are not random studies. As a matter of fact, I would venture to guess that a majority of them are not random sampling. And this is also very important, right? Now, let's get down to business here. Peanuts, allergies do exist. And children have adults have peanut allergies. How they get them, what happens, the root cause, they don't know. I mean, they're trying to figure out, maybe it's DNA, maybe it's this or that, blah, 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 whatever. Bottom line is they do exist and kids do have them. So you treat them. Anaphylaxis. That's not something to take lightly. Die from anaphylaxis. You can die from anaphylaxis. I mean, it's very, very, it can be fatal. So it's very important to be able to do. I mean, I know some people have cinnamon allergies, that have allergies to, certain spices, things like that. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard life to live, because you got to make sure that everything is, the ingredients, and you got to tell restaurants this. It's really a tough life to live. So you have this cohort guideline thing, right, going. And I took a look and I thought, this is nice, conflict of interest stuff, and all these things. Now, this was a New England Journal of Medicine study that was done in 2015. That was the basis for this whole thing, right? Randomized trial of peanut consumption, risk for peanut allergy. Randomized trial of peanut consumption. I like that. Okay, so if it was in fact random. So we randomly assigned 640 infants with severe eczema, egg allergy, or both to consume or avoid peanuts until 60 months of age. So let's get down. So let's get down to business. Randomized trial of peanut consumption. We randomly assigned 640 infants with severe eczema, egg allergy, or both. Okay, folks, look. Every object has an equal chance of being selected. Is this randomized? You can randomize the individual 640. Again, 640 that's a pretty good population. That's not a bad population that's not a bad population to sample from. So I'm just going to say that right off the bat. 640 is good. Some clinical trials I've seen have five. So it's like, no, that's not enough to get any type of reaction, any type of statistical significance whatsoever, right? But anyways, that's one of them. So then you have this is really good. This is the associate. This is pediatrics, and the nice thing about it is that this was a this was an actual called the audio. Um, this is actual an audio. Let's see if I can take it back here. Here we go. This is what they call an audio abstract, which is great. I mean, it really is good. So I'm just gonna, although I really do appreciate the fact that he's talking. This is the background of the entire study here, right? So that's pretty cool. I mean, I like that. So I'm gonna just push it forward here a little bit. This is excellent. I mean, this is a really, really good, well thought out video. I urge you to go there. Let me go ahead. I'm going to copy this to a banner. I'm going to copy this to a banner. Anybody that wants to see this, definitely, go to this publication and, oh, wait a minute, food guidelines. And I guess that's all I can put in there. Doggone. That I could put more. Let's see if I can get the whole thing here. Guidelines for early introduction and wait a minute, something else. Introduction and patterns of food allergy. So I'm going to just and patterns of food allergy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this and copy it and put it here. We'll see. So this way, I think if you want to get this, then you can so and I think this is important because because if you can do this, right? If you can, there we go. This is really, really good. I mean, the whole idea behind this thing was to make sure that they were transparent, and they really did do a great job of being transparent, especially at the end. And I think this is important because at the end, when they talk about this, and I want to go almost to the end here. It's a very quick video too. It's only about like 3 minutes. See? The idea behind this thing was that it's there's real world decrease, right? And that's what he was talking about here. What I like about it is at the end when he talks about the limitations. And I think this is really, really, really important. And I just love the fact that this guy does limitations at the end here. And I'm hoping I can just kind of get to that point. I don't know if I can do it. There we go. So limitations. Shoot. Let me just. I want you to just see the limitations area. So I think this is important. So limitations. Diagnosis codes does not equal true disease. So in other words, what they do is they have a lot of what they call diagnosis codes. These codes can, I forget, I think they're 10-digit numbers, and ICD-10, and I don't know whether they stand for International Conference Diagnostics or something like that. But anyways, this is what you put in whenever somebody comes into a hospital, counseling, anything that's done. It's done from the standpoint of diagnostic codes, but it does not equal the true disease. I really appreciate them saying that. Actual feeding patterns of children are not captured. That's another limitation. And they're more than happy to throw that out there, which is great. And then finally, generalizability to outside health systems are unclear. So in other words, they can't say do this for everybody. It doesn't, so it doesn't necessarily work. So outside health systems means, outside of that area, those cohorts that they actually tested, which is really good. In other words, the pediatric study is really a good study. It's longitudinal in nature. It has limitations, which they publish, and it's got a pretty good, and I say pretty good, overall look. I wanted to show you just a chart here, and this is the chart, one of the charts they use, and it's called an interrupted time series analysis. Now, time series analysis is, I'm going to try to introduce it here in about a minute or so, but time series analysis is being able to take time periods and be able to take a look at data for that time period and then compare it to other time periods. And what you can see here is, if you can see these dots are different points of data, and you can see they're all over the place, right? I mean, literally all over the place. But what happens is, with time series analysis, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take a, I want to say an average, but it's kind of an average. And what you're doing is you're trying to use that to form certain patterns, and they do form certain patterns on this type of data. So it's not bad. It's not a bad form to use, and it's better than it's really better than than correlation, which correlation is not causation. So that's an issue there. So they did a pretty good job there. So I mean, that's it with that. They also have some great figure legends and different things. I mean, it's really, like I said, it's really a well deal to get. This was advice to feed babies early and often, helped thousands of kids avoid allergies. Again, this is Associate Press through MSN, which is really, really good as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is this is another updated pediatric peanut allergy prevalence in the United States. It talks about different aspects. And this was this is a 2018. So there's 2015, 2018. This took into consideration, a longitudinal study, but again, it didn't go all the way up to 2025. So it's what does that mean? Does that mean that there's less, there's more? My thing is, what I would do is, I always like to go back to CDC, which CDC has all kind of different health statistics, different aspects. You can take a look at diagnosed allergic conditions in children aged 0 to 17, United States 2021. But this wasn't published till January 2023. So that's where you get that type of thing. So I'd get 2020, 2019, and take a look at that and see what, in fact, the difference is. Do they have allergic conditions? In from 2020, from 2019, from all these different things. Just over 1/4 of children in the United States had at least one allergic condition. 27.2 children had one or more selected allergic conditions. About 1 in 5 children had a seasonal allergy, and 1 in 20 had a food allergy. 1 in 20, 5%. 5% of children had a food allergy. Food allergy doesn't mean peanut. Could mean anything. Could mean not anything, but it could mean egg. Could mean spices. Those types of things. So again, I just wanted to point out different aspects and what of the study itself, and to say that it's a shame, because what the press needs to do is to get a hold of their journalists, and I say it in quotes because you don't put up that you saved 60,000 kids when you don't have the evidence to prove that you saved 60,000 kids. You can't extrapolate out and say, I saved 60,000 children. First of all, that bothers me. It bothers me as a data guy. It bothers me as a person. You just can't, don't stop throwing this stuff out like, that somehow medicine is the savior of the world. Yes, medicine is good. and it's getting better every day. And trust me, as a person with heart disease, I'm glad there's good medicine out there. I'm glad there's good cardiologists. But you know something? When we do medical care based on mathematics, we have a problem. You got to do medical care based on people. And that's where this situation with this 60,000 thing bothers the crap out of me, because it's not something that is real. It's something that is made up. And you can sit back and say, but Chris, mathematics shows, hey, I get that. But you're trying to put this medicine in a life-saving situation. And trust me, they already know they're saving lives. You don't have to tell them, and you don't have to tell people that medicine saves lives, because I know it and people know it. You don't have to throw that out there. It saves 60,000 kids' lives, because frankly, that's just plain old, that's hyperbole in a very, very one-word synopsis. So when you read these studies, and I really highly urge you to read the studies, read them and see what the limitations were, see where the conflict of interest, they have to tell what the conflict of interest is, all these different things before you move on and start to say, wow, you know, that was just a great peanut study. Everyone is different, and everyone has an individual aspect to that whole thing. So it's good that they came out with guidelines. It's good that the pediatricians are doing that. It's good that parents are paying attention to those types of things. I think that those are all good things as a result of the original peanut study in 2015. And then you had post studies in 2017. So I think all those things are very, very, very important. Saving one child's life, that's a miracle unto itself. So that's something that I do not just discard. It's the data problems that I confront, and you should too. And that's the reason for the show. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Thank you very much for listening. And you know, just if you have an allergy, just be careful. Just be careful. Stay healthy, because there's something about data that if you look at it and you really dig down into the data itself, there's a lot of research studies out there that are very, very good. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, the media likes to take these studies and put it out there like it's some edict for future health aspects. Eat well, exercise, keep your stress down. And in the meantime, this is the Data Show, Chris Greco. Take care, and I'll see you next time. And remember, always check